And joining me now from Wilmington, Delaware is NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian. And here on set with me is NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli. Thank you both for joining us. And Ken, I want to start with you. What did we hear from both sides in today's hearing? Both the government and Hunter Biden made several motions about what evidence could be admitted. So who ended up with the better score sheet?
It's hard to tell, Gabe. I would say that the judge really gave both sides most of what they wanted, and none of this was terribly consequential, setting the stage for the beginning of this trial on June 3rd. Essentially, the judge is going to allow the prosecution to, for example, quote from Hunter Biden's memoir. They're going to allow the prosecution to cite evidence from that infamous laptop and other electronic devices. There's a summary sheet with 18,000 pieces of evidence that include emails and text messages and photos. But the judge is going to allow Hunter Biden's attorneys to challenge the authenticity of specific messages if they can do that on a case-by-case basis. So that's an interesting thing that we'll see at the trial. The judge granted requests by the defense to exclude certain testimony that's negative about Hunter Biden, for example, any reference to the other criminal case against him out in California, that tax evasion case, and any reference to his being discharged from the Navy after testing positive for cocaine. The government is not allowed to portray his lifestyle as extravagant, but they are allowed to talk about his drug use and the things that he did around the drug use, which is quite unflattering. So it basically setting the stage for what is a very important trial.
And Ken, Hunter Biden himself was in court today, as we mentioned. How did he react to the proceedings?
He, according to the folks who were inside and watching him closely, he was a careful observer of the proceedings. He consulted with his lawyers on occasion. He paid close attention. Special counsel David Weiss was also there consulting with the prosecution team. It's just a reminder, though, that Hunter Biden walked away from a plea deal that was 2 misdemeanors resulting in no jail time. And now he's facing a maximum of 25 years in this case alone. Now, that won't be the sentence, but that's the maximum, and 17 years maximum in the tax case out in California. So he is in some very serious trouble facing felony charges, Gabe.
So, Ken, you've mentioned that California case a couple times. He faces tax charges there. What's the latest on that trial, on those proceedings?
Yeah, it's been postponed. It was originally scheduled to start at the end of June. It's now going to start in September. Arguably, that's the more serious of the two cases. This gun charge, while very serious, is rarely prosecuted, and there's a constitutional argument against it that Hunter Biden may win ultimately. But the tax case is very cut and dry. He's charged with felony tax evasion, and there's a lot of evidence that he didn't pay his taxes. Question about criminal intent, and that's going to be a longer, more involved, more detailed trial out there, Gabe.
Ken Dilanian live for us in Delaware. Ken, thank you. And I want to turn now to Mike Memoli. Mike, the Biden team says they're going to be low-key, but is the president going to be able to adhere to that once the trial gets underway?
That's a big question, right? I mean, the overarching theory of the case from the Biden team, whether it's the Trump trial or Hunter Biden's legal woes, has been to stay quiet because of the fear of being seen as interfering in judicial proceedings. Of course, the president is the head of the executive branch and the Judiciary Department. But the other part of this is they're taking their cues from the president. They say he's reacting to this as a father, not as a president. And there's a fear of creating the same kind of circus atmosphere around Hunter Biden's trial that we have seen in New York around Donald Trump's. And so they want to be ready to respond to the extent that some of the discussion that may come up in Wilmington involves then Vice President Biden's conduct, whether his son was influencing decisions in the Obama administration when the vice president was playing an important role in foreign policy. But otherwise, they plan to stay out of it. And we've seen in the past, the First Lady and the president have at times been asked about their son, and they respond forcefully. They defend their son. And so to the extent that we may hear from them, it may be in situations like that.
And Mike, this is a very difficult time of year for the president. As you know, it's around the anniversary of his son Beau's death. How does that add to how all of this is going to affect the president?
The timing of this, I think, is what has so many people around the president feeling very concerned about this moment for the president, right? You can draw a direct line from the death of Beau Biden 9 years ago next Thursday to the substance abuse issues that exacerbated for Hunter Biden, the journey that he went on. Remember, when Biden was holding the first big rally of his campaign in 2019, there was a seat for Hunter Biden that was left unfilled because he was in the depths of his addiction at this point. So the president and the first lady have said that they're very proud of their son for the recovery he's made, and they're first and foremost concerned about seeing him continue on that road to recovery.
Well, it's certainly something Republicans are going to keep hammering the Biden administration about. But I do want to turn to your reporting on how the Biden campaign plans to handle former President Trump's hush money trial, whatever verdict is handed down, the aftermath of that. What's this about a more aggressive posture? What are they going to be changing?
Gabe, it's such a measure of what an unusual campaign we're in that one candidate has been facing a criminal trial, and it's the other campaign that feels like it's hurt them, right?
It is really remarkable.
I was on the road this week with the president, and one senior campaign official actually made the handcuff gesture, said, we feel we've been handcuffed because we haven't been able to press our case, get the message out.
Even though it's Trump that can't, he says he's locked down in court and can't go campaign as much. But the Biden team is actually handcuffs.
And so as they're looking at the end of the first Trump trial, we don't know if we'll see another one before Election Day, they're looking for this as an opportunity that they need to pounce, right? The whole issue for them is making it clear to voters, you may not like that this is a rematch of Trump versus Biden, but this is what you get. And so it's now not about the courts taking care of Trump at the ballot box. It's us at the ballot box, and that's similar to what we saw 4 years ago.
But Mike, why wait until there's a verdict? Some critics of the way the Biden administration and the Biden campaign is handling this, they say, why not go out now and make more of a deal about it?
They certainly didn't want to play into what Trump has been saying all along, that this is a political prosecution, that this is his political opponent trying to clear the field of his enemies. And so that was a big part of it. So the end of the trial does give them the opportunity to be a bit more aggressive. And this is part of the larger strategy of the Biden team wanting to get under Trump's skin, too. One of the things they're considering is calling him a convicted felon, of course, if he is convicted, right? Not a former president. That would be something that maybe carries to a debate stage next month when they're two are sharing a stage. And so there's obviously the president wants to beat Donald Trump, but to the extent that he's struggling to do so, maybe Trump will beat himself. And that's been part of the sort of aggressive approach lately.
And on that point, we're certainly looking forward to that debate next month. How does what's going on now and whatever happens with the verdict, how does that factor into the preparation for that debate specifically?
Well, we saw the campaign laid out in a memo, sort of some of the strategy leading up to the debate, which is to use some of these big moments to tee up what the president hopes to accomplish on that debate stage. The debate is going to take place just a couple days after the anniversary of the Dobbs decision, right? The president wants to get forcefully out there that you are the one who set the path for reproductive rights being at risk. You're a convicted felon. He might be able to say that on a debate stage. Also, the anniversary of the Uvalde shooting that is being marked today, the Pulse nightclub also coming up. So they want to use these moments as sort of organizing events leading up to the debate, which they feel like is going to be an inflection point in this campaign. It is the choice. They hope to finally get it through to voters because the polls still show there's a lot of doubt about that.
Mike Memoli, our White House correspondent. So good to see you here on set.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.